health insurance in Germany? How much does it cost?
1,000 euros or more, and I think that's very expensive.
The doctor has given me just once a prescription of three tablets, and that's it. Someone is married, they have 2 or 3 children. Is it a good option? And the spouse is not working, so just one person is working. Is it a good option to move to private health insurance? The cases where you would not recommend a person to join private health insurance. Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. In today's video, I have a very special guest with me, Marcel. So in today's video, we're going to discuss health insurance and more specifically private health insurance in Germany. So welcome, Marcel. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your team.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me here. Yeah, my name is Marcel Kunz. We are an insurance and finance broker.
So the main thing is you are not bound to a specific company, and you can always compare different options and guide people to the specific option which is better for that specific person, right?
Yeah, we are totally free, so we don't have any preferred insurance company, or we don't have any people who say you have to do this month and the next month we do another company and so on. So we are totally free in this, and most of the time we don't look after prices for us, we look after the prices for the people. So what's really best for you, that's the best option if you go with us.
So let me start with the main question. How much is health insurance in Germany? How much does it cost?
Too much. For most of the people who come here, they heard, I don't know where in the world, but most of the other countries say in Germany the health insurance is free, or the health costs are low, or whatever. But that's not true. Maybe it was true 40 years ago or something, but now it's not true. So for most people who are coming here and want to live a good life and having a good salary, they have to pay 1,000 euros or more on a monthly basis for the health insurance. Of course, if you are an employee, the employer takes half of it, but that's also 500 euros plus a month just for general health insurance. And I think that's very expensive.
So the general means then you have to have additional coverages, for example, Delta coverage, or if you have a specific disease, then you'll also have to have that specific coverage as well.
Yeah, you can, of course, you can choose to not have better options or to have more options, but then you have to have copay, or you have to pay all by yourself sometimes, and then it adds up, of course. Yeah. And as you mentioned, going to the dentist is a real problem here because most of the health insurance, if you are in the public system, they don't cover much, nearly nothing. If you have to have a replacement, if you have to have braces, they nearly cover nothing. And then, yeah, you have to pay it on top of it, of course.
Let's say I'm an expat coming to Germany. What happens if I don't have a health insurance? Is it illegal not to have an health insurance? What happens?
That
Can I
question
visit a doctor?
is also asked so many times. You can't have no insurance here in Germany, so you are forced to have one. If you're coming here and, for example, you have an employer, then he will choose the health system for you if you don't have any idea. So you come here and say, okay, I have no idea what to do. Then he will just say, okay, you have to go to the public system, or maybe he's smart enough and say you can choose in the first 2 months. Then you can decide if you want to go private or want to have the public system, but you have to do it. There's no possibility you don't have any insurance here.
There's no way you can go to the doctor without insurance, or theoretically speaking, you cannot come to Germany without an insurance.
Yeah, you can, but then you are forced as ASAP to have one. And if you go to the doctor, you would have to pay everything by yourself. If you're going, maybe, for example, you go here and after one day you don't have done any paperwork, and then you have to go to the doctor because you have the flu or whatever. Then you go to the doctor, then they will ask, where's your insurance card? So you get a card, and then it's written down what's the insurance company. And then you say, I don't have one. Then either they will say, go away because I don't earn any money, or they will say, you have to pay me first before I will treat you, because I don't know if you give me any money in afterwards. And then, yeah, I don't recommend to not have anything. So I think that's one of the most important things to settle down the topic health insurance. maybe even before you come to Germany.
So let's talk about insurance in Germany, or specifically health insurance. So let's start with the government health insurance. Just tell us a little bit about the government insurance, health insurance. What does it cover, or basically so overview of the health insurance in Germany, specifically the
So
government.
basically, you have more than two systems here, but mostly for people who are coming abroad, two systems are important because people who are working for the state, they have a different thing.
Okay.
Or people who are working for as a fireman or as a police officer, then there's a different option. But for most of the people, they just go to the employer and say, hey, I want to work for you. Then they get a salary, and then the insurance payment is deducted from your salary. Most important part is, what do you get for this money? Yeah. And that's a huge problem because there's nothing written down where it stays, okay, you get this or you get that. It's just in the law. Then it's like you don't have to die. And then you can just say, okay, what's in this whole package? Of course, it's more than just not dying, but the quality of the public system is decreasing over time since 20 years. So you have to pay more and more and more, and you don't get more, you even get less. So for example, the dentist we talked about before, I think it was like when I was a kid, like 5 or 6 years old, I can remember my mom told me, that's no problem, that the insurance company will cover all of it. And today I have my own kids. They are 4 and he will be 5 this year. And I know if I would be in the public system, nothing would be covered. But I have to pay more than 20 years ago. So that's a problem. And also, if you are in the public system, maybe you think, okay, I can just go to the doctor. But that's not the case. So most of the time, even the general doctor, you call them and say, hey, I'm ill, I'm not feeling that well. And they will say, okay, come over, but then you will have to wait hours and hours. And if you have something bigger, like for example, you have something with your heart and you need to go to the cardiologist, then he will say, I don't take new clients or new patients, or they will say, I have an appointment next year.
So you either die now or come next.
So of course, if it's really if it's really in a life or death situation, then you don't call the doctor, you call the ambulance, please, and then they will transport you to the hospital. But lucky, the most cases are not life or death. They are, okay, I need to go to the doctor and then he will give me medicine or whatever, or treatment. And that's a pain, really pain. So most of the people in Germany, they have to have an appointment 6 months in the future and ongoing. And of course, there can be so much thing in between. You can have more pain, or it's getting worse, or whatever. And even then, if you go there, the doctor knows they won't get much money from people who are in the public system, and they just will do it as fast as they can because they need to do as much patients as they can per day. So yeah, the system is really collapsing because it's, maybe to understand it why this is, it's like there's no saving or something. So, or just your personal health insurance. It's the health insurance for all people here in Germany. If you're having high salary, a low salary, if you have no salary, all people are in the same big pot.
Bracket.
And everyone has to be paid out of this pot. And of course, as everything demographically, we are getting in worse situations. And as soon as someone pays their contribution on a monthly basis, another one will take it out, and it's not enough. So the German state have to put in more than 25 billion euros per year on top of all the contributions to save the system.
The government system, I also have the government health insurance, which is very bad. I have to get an appointment months in advance, and when I also have an appointment, I have a specific time, I still have to wait an hour or so before the doctor sees me, and the doctor takes a minute or max a minute and a half and says, okay, bye. In the almost 9 years I've been here in Germany, The doctor has given me just once a prescription of three tablets, and that's it. Like all of the other times, I have to buy over-the-counter medicine.
Even you have a copay for these prescriptions, so you
Yes.
don't, it's not covered all of it, but you
Yeah.
have to
So
pay
it's
1,000 euros a month on half of it
yeah,
if you're
that's true.
employed.
The government system is not that good. How can one, or before we go to that question, why isn't everyone going to the private health insurance if it's that bad?
That's a good question. There are more than one thing. You can't just decide to go, oh, I want to have the private system. You have to be healthy because there will be a questionnaire about your actual health status. And if you have something like, I don't know, permanent flu, or you had COVID and have treatments ongoing because it's not over yet, and things like this, or you have allergies, or you have a broken leg or whatever, then either they won't take you, or you have to pay a higher contribution, or you have to wait until it's over and you are fine. So your health status is the main problem, I think, for expats, for examples. And then the second one is you have to have at least 66,670 euros. So it's a cap where you have to have at least a minimum salary, gross salary per year to join the private health system, or you are self-employed. That's also possible. And if you're having not that high salary, or if your health status is not good enough, then you can't join the private health system.
So firstly, you need to be generally healthy.
Yes.
And secondly, there is a price or salary cap that you need to have. So there's 66,000 plus salary, and generally you need to be healthy.
And
Let's say if someone is generally healthy, generally above the health insurance salary cap, then what's the benefit?
So there are many benefits, but I think the most beneficial part is, as you described it, having an immediately appointment, don't have any waiting times, even if you have to go to the hospital. And on top of it, you save money if you join early. So of course, if you join if you're 55 and older, then you don't save any money, but you have the beneficial part of the waiting times. But if you are young, you save a lot of money. I can just describe my own situation. So myself, I'm 34 years old. I pay 419 euros or something like this a month. Of course, I don't have an employer, so I have to pay the full amount, but I save approximately 600 euros a month before taxes, and I have immediately appointments. I don't have any waiting times and so on. Yeah, you know it because we had an appointment before and I had to cancel because I had severe lung problems. And I just call the doctor and they say, hey, come over. And then I wait 5 minutes and then I'm in. And they don't have only 1 minute for me. So they really talk to me and say, okay, we have to check all the things and so on. And yeah. So yeah, I think it's the better treatment, faster appointments, and most of the times you can save a lot of money. Not every situation, of course, but most of the times you can also save a lot of money.
So generally, like you said, if someone is paying 1,000 euros and they are employed, so 500 is coming out of their pocket, 500 from the employer. So if someone is in private pension, so this becomes again a lower cost. For example, in your case, if you are employed,
I would only have
your
to pay
400 would have been
210.
like 200 euros.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So and can save
So are there tiers in private health insurance, or is it just based on your health and your salary? How does it
it's
like
totally
cover?
based on your decisions, because you can have more options that is covered. So you can have the most basic option, like if you are having the public system, but for a lower price, that you can choose. Then you can have the chief of doctors in hospital, a 1-bedroom in hospital, for example. You can have a higher treatment for the dentist, a higher coverage for dental replacements. What else? You can even have coverage for going to alternative medicine people and so on. And there's much more. You can just say, okay, I want this option. I don't want this option. I want this option and so on. So there hundreds of tiers, yeah, but mainly you can separate them in the most basic one. So it's like the public system, but with lower costs, but also with higher, better treatment and faster appointments. Then you have the middle thing where everything is a little bit better. And then, of course, you also can have the highest in higher standard, all premium tariffs, and everything is covered. You don't have copay, no deductible, whatever. Yeah, and you can choose anything between, of course.
Okay, so let us go through a few scenarios. So the first scenario is I'm a young professional. I've just started my job, and my salary is again, let's say 70,000 euros per year. I'm single, let's say younger than 30 years old. I generally don't, or at least I don't know that I have any illnesses. I'm okay, I'm healthy, I go to the gym. So let's say, what would you recommend this person in terms of private health insurance?
Of course, it depends if you want to have some options on top of it. So if you are basically, if you say, okay, I'm basically okay with the German system, but I want to save money and I just want to, have a faster appointment if there is something, but there is rarely something, then of course I would always choose the lowest option, but with an option itself to have a better option later on, even if you have something. So for example, for most of the companies, you can pay 5 euros more, 10 euros more, depends on the company per month. And then you have the options to choose even a better system later on, and you start with the lowest. Or you can say, okay, for me, health is really, really important. And even if I don't have anything, I want to have a good basement plus some options from the start off. And then, of course, still save a lot of money. But if there's something I want to have covered, that all is covered from the beginning on. So those two options I would recommend if you're starting, because in both cases, you will still save money, because that's the downside on the private system. Of course, you have an increasement in both systems, but the increasement in the private system doesn't, or even the contribution at any time doesn't depend on your salary. So if you want to, if you are growing older and maybe you go part-time as a woman, growing children, or later on if you're going to the retirement age, then of course can be problematic if you have high costs for your health insurance, and if it's not linked to your salary or your income, and then it can be a problem, and you just have the solution on the run if you just save money early on and then use that money if you will ever have this problem anytime. So I would always recommend, if you are young, that you start low in price and with a good coverage, not the worst coverage.
So here you still also have an option. Let's say I'm young, I've started in the lowest option, and then in the future, can I change the insurance at a lower increase in premium?
Yeah, so the funny part is, if you start high, you can always go lower. That's no problem. Even if you have something with your health, then that's no problem. In the same company. So for example, you joining the ARAG, that's one of the companies, in the best tariff, and you are going to the retirement age and say, okay, I want to save more money, then you can just choose another plan. That's no problem. And if you are healthy, you could also choose another company. That's no problem. So, and if you choose on the lowest of the plans, then you can always have an upgrade if you are healthy. That's no problem at all. And if you're not healthy, I would always recommend to have the option where you can upgrade your own plan in a specific time. For example, at ARAG, it's in the first 10 years. So, yeah.
So this option has a small premium added on your private health insurance.
It's
but it's not a big difference.
No. For ARC, for example, it's like 5 euros. For other companies, it's like 10 euros. It's something in between. So it's basically nothing. Yeah. You just add it and have the option, and then you're fine and good to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So generally, a single person, they're always going to save money in most cases. Let's go a little bit difficult. So we have in the same scenario, we can discuss two things, but let's say there's a person who is working full time and then they have a spouse who is not working.
Yeah.
So how will they benefit from a private health insurance
Okay.
if they can?
It depends. So if the spouse really don't have any income, that's really important, then the spouse also have to go to the private health system. If she or he works part-time, for example, or above the lowest you
530
can
euros,
have, so
580, yeah.
you have to contribute to the social system at this time. You have to be in the government system as well, and you as the earner, you have to, or you can be in the private system. But if they don't have any income at all, then they have also go to the private system. They don't have to go to the same insurance company than you. That's no problem. They can choose whatever they want, of course, if their health status is fine. But they will have their own premium. So there is no like family insurance in the private system or things like this. Every person who joins the private system have his own premium depending on the age when they start and depending on their health status, of course. And yeah, so you would have to pay for two adults in this scenario described. But even then, take my case, I'm 34 years old, and my wife is also self-employed and employed also, so she's at the government system at the moment. But even if she wouldn't have any income and have to join me and had approximately the same price as me because she's as old as me, then I would have 840 euros and still lower than the public system.
Than 1,000 euros.
Yeah.
Let's say if there was a person who is not married, single, they want
Yeah.
private health insurance, then they got married and they thought, okay, private health insurance is not for me. Can they
Yeah.
go back to the government insurance because they got married?
No. There are rare cases where you can choose going back or changing the system back. That's one of the downsides. You can call it a downside if you want to. So there are only two scenarios where you, of course, drop out of the private system. Scenario one, you leave Germany. Okay, then of course you drop both systems, or there are three cases. Case two, you drop below the where you have to have the salary. So maybe you go part-time, so you only earn 50,000 euros or something. Then you automatically drop out of the system, the private system, and have to go back to the public system. And part three is if that's a little bit more complicated, and I don't think we can discuss it in detail here, but you can choose to be part-time for a short period of time and then go back to the full amount and things like this, but then you need your employer to be on board, etc., etc.
Okay,
so it would be a hard journey, I can tell you this. And in my situation, and if I do my consultings, I always ask the people, okay, is there a girlfriend, for example, or a boyfriend, whatever, yeah? And is there a marriage in soon, or what's your plan with children, etc. So we talk about future plans also. And if the people know, okay, I want to have 5 children and a wife in 3 years, for example, then I will say, okay, maybe the private health system is not suited for you. But if it's just you having a wife, maybe in 10 years, then you save so much money in this 10 years, then it's still a better option for you. So, but yeah, you can't just say, I'm out. No, I don't want to be here anymore. That's not possible. Yeah.
Coming back to the leaving Germany part, there are many expats who come to Germany. For example, there's a student who did their master's degree, then they started working in Germany. Let's say they got more than 70,000 or whatever, 66,000 euros per year. They joined the private health insurance system, and then they left Germany for, let's say, Netherlands, Belgium, or some other European country. So now they're not in Germany. They work in another European, or let's say another country for 6 months, 8 months. What time frame do they have have left Germany to leave the private pension system? Let's say someone left Germany for 6 months and then they got another job in Germany and they come back to Germany. So must they
Okay,
join the private health
I know
insurance?
what you mean. So to drop out of the private system, or there is no specific time written down in the law because it's a relatively new topic for these kind of things in the law. But most of the time, it's you leave Germany even for 1 day. For example, 1 day is not possible, but for 1 month, and then you
Deregister and then
you join this other system, whatever country you are at now, and then you come back and then you can choose again. But
okay.
there's also always be a problem if you are having a big track record here in Germany. For example, you're starting your master's, as you said, you have your master degree here, then you're working here for 20 years, for example, and you are here the private system for 20 years, and then you go to another country for 3 months and come back. Then, of course, the German state knows that you did this, and then they will ask, why did you leave? And did you just leave to cheat the system? And yeah,
but in most cases for expats, like usually expats who stay longer, they
will
know
stay.
everything. They don't do mostly, like I've seen many people asking me this question. They stayed in Germany for 2 years, 3 years. They got a job in Belgium, Netherlands,
And then
and
come
then
back
they left there. They joined there for 6 months. They did not like the system there,
and
or
come back.
any sort of reasons. And then they thought, okay, we'll come back to Germany because we like
Yeah.
Germany more.
That
Then
won't be a
it's not a
problem, and you will choose again. So
okay.
for
So they
this
can
kind of
still
people
choose
that
from private or
yeah,
public insurance.
yes.
Okay.
You
So
can even if it's just such a short time. So for example, 6 months, then you even save them time here for the private thing, so you don't have to start all over again. You just have the time saved. If you join the same company, of course, you can't join another company. So for example, you were here for 3 years in the ARAG, and then you go to the Netherlands for 6 months and coming back, then the ARAGs will say, okay, it's for us like you joined 3 years ago. So, but it's only if you are apart and abroad for a short time, because imagine this, you have some people who coming here working. For example, I had one client, he was working for he was working for Siemens in China. Then he what is this? and then he came here to Germany, working here for I think it was 3 years or something, and then he had to go back to China for 1 year. And then we called the company and say, hey, he will definitely come back here to Germany after 1 year. But Siemens decided that he have to have the contract with the Chinese firm and at the German Siemens firm. And then, of course, he dropped out of the German system for 1 year. But then as soon as he comes back, he had his all old premium from ARAG and every benefits from the year before. And he didn't have to have another questionnaire for health and things like this.
Okay. So if you know beforehand, if the time frame of you leaving Germany is known 6 months or whatever, a year or so, then you can always discuss with the health insurance provider and discuss or get good coverage options again when you come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you have a short period of time, for example, 3 months, you can even have the coverage of the German system abroad. But of course, only if you know you will come back in 3 months, for example.
Okay. So let's go to the third scenario, which I don't think would be a good option for someone in private health insurance. So if someone is married, they have 2 or 3 children, is it a good option? And the spouse is not working. So just one person is working. Is it a good option to move to private health insurance?
Only if you're really, really, really high earner, because if you say, okay, my health is more worth than saving money, then yes. But if you compare it to just on the finance part, you won't save any money because you have, take my example, two adults, it would be 840 euros. And then every child will cost approximately 170 on top of it. So times 3, for example, that's 540 on top of it. So you approximately 1.3K a month. And yeah, that's higher than the public system, of course. then you won't choose the private system just for financial benefits. You will only choose it if you want to have health benefits.
What are the other options where you would not recommend, or the cases where you would not recommend a person to join private health insurance?
If you're new to Germany and start as a freelancer and don't have any high income, so for example, you come here and you don't have customers and you need to do everything by yourself, and maybe you have 2K, 3K income or something like this a month, and it's even fluctuating. So sometimes you have high earnings, sometimes none earnings. Then I don't want recommend the private system, because of course you have to pay the public system as well, and you have to pay the bare minimum, so it's like 200 euros something. But if you don't pay the German state, then they will give you say, okay, please pay. But if you don't pay a private company, then you have a real problem. You will get a bad score at Schufa. It's like a credit score here. You will the other insurance companies will not take you in the next 10 years, yeah, and things like this. So you will have more problems than just I can't pay my health insurance anymore. And at the end, they will knock at your door and say, "Where's my money? I want to have my money." So
give me my money back.
You need a steady income, and I think at least 3K net per month. So not 3K income, so 3K net per month after all your costs for your business. And then it's okay to considering the private system, but not before. It won't be a good, because you will.
So freelancers who have a fluctuating income less than 3,000 net, those are not very good suitable for private.
You can,
generally
of course, we can talk about it, and maybe you can book a meeting and we can discuss your price and what would it cost, and maybe we can make like an option to go later on, like the 5 euros I mentioned. You can also do this option sometimes before. So we just talk about it, and then we can decide it's good or not. But most of the times I wouldn't recommend it.
So obviously, people can click on the first link in the description and have a free meeting with you. The first meeting is always going to be free.
Yes.
So you can have a personalized discussion, because these are very specific cases, and every single person in most cases has very different scenarios, and it's always better to have a specific meeting with Marcel so that you can discuss your specific case with them.
Yes.
So we know, okay, generally what's a bad scenario, but who should definitely think about joining private health insurance?
So if you're healthy, of course, if you're healthy, young means under 35 or under 40, something like this, and have a high salary, of course. Otherwise, you can't join. They should definitely talk with me. If they want to join, they can decide after. But I think, sorry to say so, it's a no-brainer. So you just look at the numbers and see, okay, I will pay, even if in the best possible tariff, I will pay 800 euros, for example, still save money. And there's something we didn't talk about. You get a bonus if you don't cost the insurance company any money. So for example, don't go to the doctor because you are healthy, then the insurance company will pay you. Yeah, because they say, okay, you didn't cost us any money. And then you still save money on a monthly basis. You get those bonuses. And if you have anything like an accident or a chronic illness you didn't know about, or you get cancer or whatever, you will get the best treatment in Germany. And I can say, in my experience, the German doctors are very great. But only if they get paid much.
They're only great when you're private insurance.
Not always, but in my experience, I'm in the private health system like 5 years now, 6 years now, and I had one accident where I broke my finger, and I had the severe lung thing now, and both of the times they really had time for me. I had a fast appointment, and I didn't feel just as a number. Yeah. And in my experience, that's worth more than saving money. Yeah,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
save money on top of it.
definitely.
Yeah, so yeah.
Let's just cover a topic which I get asked about a lot: private health insurance for students.
Yeah.
So let's say if there are students who want to move to a private health insurance, what would you talk about, or what would you discuss in that specific regards?
It's definitely possible, but it's not that I would just say, okay, go for it, because you won't save any money, because the public system, oh, there's the thing again, the public system is also cheap for students. Yeah, there's a specific price for students. I don't know if it's cheap, considering cheap in comparison to the costs of the rest of Germany, then that it's cheap, and you would approximately pay the same or even more in the private. And on top of it, you will have deductible and copay as a student, and it's not that like, okay, it's easy like in the other situations. But if you know for sure that you will have a high salary after, for example, your master's degree, and you are healthy now because you will save your health status at this moment, then it's definitely a good way to go. Because, for example, you have your master's degree, and 1 year later you earn 70,000, 80,000 or whatever, and you started over, and in the time between you had an accident or whatever, they will still take you because you are already insured by them, and then you don't have a problem with your health anymore. But you can't just say, okay, it's a no-brainer. It really depends. Yeah, it depends on your financial situation. It depends on what are your plans going after you having finished your study, and so on. So yeah, we can, of course, those people also can just book a meeting and we talk about it. But it's not like, okay, you earn this amount of money, just go for it. Yeah.
What about students who are older than 30? They have to pick a private insurance. I'm not sure about the case, but I've heard many students saying that they have to pick a private insurance if they are older than 30, or in the government insurance, their premium goes really, really high. So for them, it's cheaper to join the private health insurance.
That can be the case, of course, but yeah, I don't have this scenario often. I just had once a student, 32 years old or something it was 3 years ago. But we know after 6 months he would have a salary above 100K. So we just go to the private insurance, but we didn't even check the public cost for his as a student. I don't know for sure that is really 30, because in Germany there is a law, if you are under 25, you can be at the family insurance. If your parents are in the public system, you can choose to have also the public system as a family insurance, so you don't have to pay anything. You will be dropping out as soon as you are 25 or older, and then you have to pay like, it's something 80 euros plus a month. Yeah, just for the health insurance, and then you have to pay something for elder care. I don't know what's the specific number, but it's not that much. And I don't think there is a cap at 30. I never heard of it, but yet the system is so complicated.
I've seen cases where expat students or international students who are above the age of 30, their premium changes to a higher number in the government health insurance.
There can be a problem with the law in Germany, and that's why it's the case, because of course in Germany you can go to be a student at any specific age. There's no problem. But there can be a problem if you are working and being a student, and then working again and being a student. It's like, yeah, that's a rare case for German law. So yeah, maybe it's this specific topic.
But if anyone is like forced to move, or if their premium is getting extremely high compared to them being younger than 29, they can always, or anyone who's interested in private health insurance can always contact you and discuss their
that's no
specific
problem.
case.
And we can just talk about your topic, and then we can look if it's good for you or not. And yeah, I think if 10 people talk to me about private health insurance, then there are 2 or 3 people who can't join because of their health status. So everything else is fine, but 2 or 3 people can't join. 2 or 3 people don't want to join because they have much children or whatever, their spouse isn't working and things like this we already talked about. And I think half of the people, or maybe a bit more, will join the private system afterwards. There are 2 main differences we didn't talk about. The first difference is you always have to pay first in the private health system. So if you're in the public system, you just go to the doctor, you have your card, and then give it to the people there, and then they will give the receipt to the insurance company directly. So you don't have to do anything despite paying copay for prescriptions and so on. In the private system, you always have to pay first because you will get the receipt, not the insurance company. So you are the patient and you are the payer. But today, 10 years ago, it was different. But today, nearly most of the companies in Germany have a good app or a good digital way to hand in those prescriptions, to hand in those receipts. And for my case, I'm at Hanse Merkur. I get my money in 1 or 2 weeks after I handed the receipt in, and the payment notice period is like a month or so. So I have my money before I have to pay the doctor. It's not in every case, of course, but most cases. But you always have to pay first. That's a big difference.
So in this scenario, let's assume if someone has a huge bill, so if they were in a severe case of accident.
See, I'm such in my world that I didn't think of such topics, but no, it's not like in the US where you have to go to the hospital and have to pay one, I don't know, 200,000 euros or whatever. So if you're going to the hospital, the insurance company will make it directly with the hospital, so you are just in between. And if it's a high bill, for example, you have to go to the main doctor because you're a cancer patient or whatever, so you don't have to go to the hospital directly, then of course they will discuss it, because then the private company will say to the doctor, I will look exactly what are you doing, because that's a huge amount of money for me. And of course you don't have to pay, for example, 50,000 euros in advance. That's not the case. There's not a specific number where I can say, okay, until there you have to pay, and then you don't have to pay. If you having trouble to pay front up, then you just call your insurance company, or if you're going with us, we call them and say, hey, you have to pay because he can't pay. Yeah. So you don't have to have this in mind. If it's a real problem, a high bill, you don't have to pay for. You have to pay first. It's just for the little things like going to the dentist, having your cleanings, going to the mind doctor, getting painkillers and things like this. So my highest receipt was when I got my wisdom teeth removement plus some cleaning and so on, and it was like 1,000 euros or something. That was the highest I ever had.
Okay. So when you said like we have to pay, or the person on private insurance has to pay, like suddenly like the USA scenario came in mind, like
no,
50, 60
we
or
don't
more
have
than 100,000
scenarios here. We don't have US. Even so, for example, I can tell you this story. I had a woman coming from Singapore. It was Singapore, yeah. And she said, okay, Marcel, I want to join the private system, but I'm so desperate when I get a kid and I have to, I don't know, pay 10,000, 20,000 in advance because I'm giving birth. And then I said to her, the best part here in Germany, if you are in the private health system and you have a good tariff, you will get paid if you're giving birth. You don't have to pay anything. Everything will be covered, and that's no lie or so. In the premium tariffs, you will have a bonus paid you one time bonus if you're giving birth as a woman, of course, and giving birth in the hospital, and you will get, for example, 300 euros, 500 euros. And everything will be covered. So no US scenario here.
Okay, that is good to know.
The second thing is daily sickness allowance. So for example, if you are ill more than 6 weeks, until the 7th week, the employer will pay you still 100% of your salary. And then after 6 weeks, you get Krankengeld, it's called in Germany, from the public system. It's approximately 60% of your net salary, but it's capped.
Mm-hmm.
The cap is like 3K something. Yeah. And
Okay.
in the private system, you have to have an option. It's called daily sickness allowance. They will pay you
Mm-hmm.
for every day sick after, for example, 6 weeks. But you can have, you have to have this option, but you can choose how much they will pay and when they will pay. So, for example, some people don't need money after 6 weeks. They will need money after 3 months or whatever. You can choose what you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have this option, and I would always recommend it. And I've seen so many expats and other people, self-employed people, they didn't have the option. And it will be a huge problem because, for example, it's not a big case, but for example, you had an accident with a car and you have to go to the hospital for 3, 4, whatever weeks, and then you have to stay at home for another 2, 3, 4 weeks, or even more, or 3 months, for example, because you broke your back or whatever. It doesn't always have to be cancer or things like this. So then you stay at home and you don't get any money from anywhere. That's a big problem because you have to pay the contribution for the private system all by yourself because there's no employer anymore. And on top of it, you have to pay your rent and things like this, of course. So yeah, that's a huge difference. And you always have to think about it.
That's true.
And maybe
This
as a
was
bonus, I will always recommend you to save the money you would save against the public system, that you will never be in the situation that the private system will cost you more than the public system. Because mathematically, it's impossible. Take my scenario, if I would save the 600 euros a month, even if I just save it on my savings account, I don't invest it in or whatever I do with it, I just save it. Even then, I can't come in the situation where the private system will cost me more than the public. And if I save those 600 euros in a broad ETF or in a private pension with David or whatever, then there's no case in this world where I will ever be on a
paying
bad
more than the government
situation or pay
system.
more for the private system. And if I'm staying healthy my life and I won't get ill even not in retirement age, then I wouldn't always have a huge amount of income because I saved 30, 40 years, 600 euros a month. And of course, you can do it even if you don't have a consultation with me and are already in the private system. Please just save the money. I don't know.
Don't spend it all.
Don't spend it on whatever. Make good health insurance, make good investments. It's possible in Germany.
Yeah. Thanks, Marcel. This was a very interesting conversation. I'm really happy that we had this discussion. So again, if anyone wants to contact you, they can contact you with the first link in the description, and first consultation is always free.
Yes, thanks for having me here. And I can just say, let's talk. And if you decide after we talked you don't want to join the private system, it's fine as well. But then you have all the information you need to make a good decision.
Yes, it's always better to have information. One thing that I do not like about the German culture is people always assume that you have all of the information, which is very bad.
In Germany, we say, or I'm angry about this saying, because most of the people say, okay, I know this, but they don't know. They just have a meaning about it, but they don't know any facts. And even if you have the situation here, they will just say, no, the private health insurance is not good. But if you ask them why it's not good, they don't have any answers because they have no idea. And as you said, that's part of the German culture. Unfortunately, it's a big downside. They have lots of thoughts, but most of the time, no knowledge.
So inform yourself, make better health choices, get good health insurance.